Om Ajnanam Timirandasya Jnanajanakshalakaya Chakshurundantamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Padam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunath Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Cha नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णापृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत शिव सदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। Yes. Guruji,
Yes,
hello Guruji.
The Ashtanga Yoga system is the Ashtanga Yoga. Hare Krishna Guruji. The Ashtanga Yoga system is also materialistic, in as much as it teaches one to control the movements of air within the material body. The spiritual spark, the soul, is floating on air within the body, and inhalation and exhalation are the waves of that air containing the soul. Therefore, the yoga system is a materialistic art of controlling this air by transferring it from the stomach to the navel, from the chest to the collarbone, and from there to the eyeballs, and from there to the cerebellum, and from there to any desired planet. The velocities of air and light are taken into consideration by the materialistic scientist, but he has no information of the velocity of the mind and intelligence. We have some limited experience of the velocity of mind, because in a moment we can transfer our minds to places hundreds of thousands of miles away. Intelligence is even finer. Finer than intelligence is the soul, which is not matter like mind and intelligence, but is a spirit or antimatter. The soul is hundreds of thousands of times finer and more powerful than intelligence. We can thus only imagine the velocity of soul in its traveling from one planet to another. Needless to say, the soul travels by its own strength and not with the help of any kind of material vehicle.
Guruji, can you please?
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही गुरुजी।
Hare Krishna Guruji.
हाँ भी आ रही है।
Yes Guruji. Naveen Guruji.
Okay, thank you. The bestial civilization of eating, sleeping, hearing, and sense gratifying has misled modern man into forgetting how powerful a soul he has. As we have already described, the soul is a spiritual spark which is many times more illuminating, dazzling, and powerful than sun, moon, or electricity. Human life is spoiled when man does not realize his real identity with his soul. Lord Chaitanya appeared with his disciple Nityananda to save men from this type of misleading civilization. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Deepak Prabhu. Deepak Prabhu, can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, please start.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam also describes how yogis can travel to all the planets in the universe. When the vital force is lifted to the cerebellum, there is every chance of this force bursting out from the eyes, nose, ears, etc. As these places which are known as seventh orbit of the vital force. But the yogis can block out these holes by complete suspension of air. The yogi then concentrates the vital force in the middle position, that is, between the eyebrows. At this position, the yogi can think of the planet into which he wants to enter after leaving the body. He can then decide whether he wants to go to the abode of Krishna in the transcendental Vaikuntha's, from which he will not be required to descend into the material world, or to travel to higher planets in the material universe. The perfect yogi is at liberty to do either.
Kanak.
Hare Krishna. For the perfect yogi who has attained success in the method of leaving his body in perfect consciousness, transferring from one planet to another is as easy as an ordinary man's walking to the grocery store. As already discussed, the material body is just a covering of the spiritual soul. Mind and intelligence are the undercoverings, and the gross body of earth, water, air, etc. is the overcoating of the soul. As such, any advanced soul who has realized himself by the yogic process, who knows the relationship between matter and spirit, can leave the gross dress of the soul in perfect order and as he desires. By the grace of God, we have complete freedom. Because the Lord is kind to us, we can live anywhere, either in the spiritual sky or in the material sky, upon whichever planet we desire. However, misuse of this freedom causes one to fall down into the material world and suffer the threefold mysteries of conditioned life. The living of a miserable life in the material world by dint of the soul's choice is nicely illustrated by Milton in Paradise Lost. Similarly, by choice, the soul can regain paradise and return home back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
At the critical time of death, one can place the vital force between the two eyebrows and decide where he wants to go. If he is reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, he can, in less than a second, reach the transcendental Vaikuntha and appear there completely in his spiritual body, which will be suitable for him in the spiritual atmosphere. He has simply to desire to leave the material world in both finer and grosser forms, and then move the vital force to topmost part of the skull and leave the body from the hole in the skull called a Brahma Randhra. This is the highest perfection in the practice of yoga.
Of course, man is endowed with free will, and as such, if he does not want to free himself of the material world, he may enjoy the life of Brahmapad, occupation of the post of Brahma, and visit Siddhalok, the planets of materially perfect beings who have full abilities to control gravity, space, time, etc. To visit these higher planets in the material universe, one need not give up his mind and intelligence, finer matter, but need only give up grosser matter, the material body.
Man-made satellites and mechanical space vehicles will never be able to carry human beings to the planets of outer space. Men cannot even go on their must advertised trips to the moon, for as we have already stated, the atmosphere on such higher planet is different from the atmosphere here on Earth. Each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and if one wants to travel to any particular planet within the material universe, one has to have a material body exactly adapted to the climatic condition of that planet. For instance, if one wants to go from India to Europe, where the climatic condition is different, one has to change his dress accordingly. Similarly, a complete change of body is necessary if one wants to go to the transcendental planets of Vaikuntha.
Yes. If one wants to go to the higher material planets, he can keep his finer dress of mind, intelligence, and ego, but has to leave his gross dress body, made of earth, water, fire, etc. When one grows to transcendental planet, however, it is necessary to change both the finer and gross bodies. For one has to reach the spiritual sky completely in a spiritual form. This change of dress will take place automatically at the time of death, if one so desires, but the desire is possible at death only. If the desire is cultivated during life, uh, sorry, Proji, sorry.
No issues. Please continue, Pradeep.
And anyone can, sorry.
No, you can continue. What's the issue?
Okay. Where one's treasure are, there also is one's heart. When one practices devotional service, one cultivates a desire for the kingdom of God. The following details outline a general practice by which one can prepare himself for an easy journey to the Vaikuntha, any material planet, where life is free from birth, old age, disease, and death.
General practice for function.
हाँ प्रदीप आवाज मेरे को नहीं सुनाई दे रही है फिर सबके साथ चली जा रही है कृष्णा कृष्णा प्रदीप
हाँ माता जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है
अब आ रही है प्रभु जी?
कनक
अभी बेटर है
can you start from the beginning?
General practice, positive functions. The serious candidate must accept a bona fide spiritual master in order to be trained scientifically. Because the senses are material, it is not at all possible to realize the transcendence by them. Therefore, the senses have to be spiritualized by the prescribed method under the direction of the spiritual master. When the student has chosen a bona fide spiritual master, he must take the proper initiation from him. This marks the beginning of spiritual training. The candidate must be prepared to satisfy the spiritual master in every way. A bona fide spiritual master who is fully cognizant of the methods of spiritual science learned in the spiritual scriptures such as the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Upanishads, and who is also a realized soul who has made a tangible connection with the Supreme Lord, is the transparent medium by which the willing candidate is led to the path of the Vaikunthas. The spiritual master must have satisfied in all respect, because simply by his good wishes, a candidate can make wonderful progress along the path. Hare Krishna.
The intelligent candidate places intelligent questions to the spiritual master in order to clear his path of all uncertainties. The spiritual master shows the way, not whimsically, but in accordance with the principles of the authorities who have actually traversed the path. The name of these authorities are disclosed in the scriptures, and one has simply to follow them under the direction of spiritual master. The spiritual master never deviates from the path of the authorities. Yes, Prabhu.
The candidate should always try to follow in the footsteps of the great sages who have practiced the method and obtained success. This should be taken as a motto in life. One should not superficially imitate them, but should follow them sincerely in the terms of the particular time and circumstances.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, sorry. मैं कुछ और सोचने लगा था. The candidate must be prepared to change his habits in terms of the instruction contained in the book of authority. And for the satisfaction of the Lord, he must be prepared to sacrifice both sense gratification and sense abnegation, following the example of Arjuna.
Yes. Prabhu.
Yes, Guruji, the candidate should live in the spiritual atmosphere.
Yes,
Must
please.
be satisfied with as much wealth as is sufficient for maintenance only. He should not try to amass more wealth than is necessary to sustain himself in a simple way.
Yes.
He must observe the fasting dates such as the 11th day of the growing and waning moon. He must show respect to the banyan tree, the cow, learned brahmana, and the devotee. These are the first stepping stones toward the path of devotional service. Gradually, one has to adopt other items which are negative in character. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please, please go ahead. Okay, I'll start. One should avoid offenses in the discharge of devotional service and in chanting the holy name. He should avoid extensive association with the non-devotees. Yes, Prabhuji.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
He must not take on unlimited disciples. This means that a candidate who has successfully followed the first 12 items can also become a spiritual master himself, just as a student becomes a monitor in class with a limited number of disciples.
Yes, Prabhuji.
He must not pose himself as a vastly learned man simply by quoting statements in book. He must have solid knowledge of the necessary books without superfluous knowledge in others.
The truth.
Yes, Prabhuji. A regular and successful practice of the above 14 items will enable the candidate to maintain mental equilibrium even amid great trials of material loss and gain. In the next, the candidate does not become afflicted by lamentation and illusion.
Yes. Kanak.
He not deride another's mood of religion or worship, nor does he deride the personality of Godhead or his devotees. He never tolerates blasphemy against the Lord or his devotees. Hare Krishna.
Yes. He should not indulge in the discussion of topics dealings with the relationship between man and woman, nor should he engage in useless topics concerning other family affairs. Yes. Prabhuji.
He should not inflict pain, either in body or in mind, upon other living beings, whomsoever they may be. Out of above 12 items, the first three positive items are imperative and most essential for the serious candidate.
Yes, Prabhuji. And
There are 44 other items to be followed by the serious candidate, but Lord Chaitanya has selected 5 as the most important. These were selected owing to the present conditions of civic life. They are as follows. One should associate with the devotee. Association with devotee is made possible by hearing them attentively, by asking them relevant questions, by supplying them food. Hold on. Associating with devotee, asking them relevant questions, by supplying them food and by accepting food from them, and by giving them charity and by accepting from them whatever they offer. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in all circumstances. Chanting of the Lord's name is an easy and expensive process of realization. One can chant any of the innumerable names of the Lord at any time. One should try to avoid offenses. There are 10 offenses which one can commit while chanting the transcendental names, and they should be avoided as far as possible. But in any event, one should try to chant the holy names of the Lord at all times.
Okay.
One should hear the transcendental topics enunciated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This hearing is made possible through platform lectures by bona fide devotees and by authorized translations of the Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
One should make his home at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, or one may take his home as good as Mathura by installing the deity of the Lord to be worshipped by all members of the family and after proper initiation from spiritual master. Yes, please.
One should worship the installed deity with attention and devotion so that the whole atmosphere of one's home becomes the replica of the Lord's abode. This is made possible by the direction of the spiritual master, who knows the transcendental art and can show the candidate the proper method.
The above 5 items can be adopted by any man in any part of the world. Thus, anyone can prepare himself for returning home back to Godhead by the simple method recognized by authorities such as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who specifically advented himself to deliver the fallen souls of this age.
Yes, Roji. For further details on this subject, one should read literatures like the Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, which we have presented on English from the study entitled The Nectar of Devotion.
The whole process of transferring oneself to the spiritual sky involves gradually liquidating the material composition of the gross current spiritual. The aforementioned 5 items of devotion by a devotee, even in the preliminary stage, can very quickly promote the sincere executor to the stage of bhav, the stage just prior to love of Godhead, or emotion on the spiritual plane, which is transcendental to mental and intellectual functions. A complete absorption in bhav or love for God make one fit to be transferred to the spiritual sky just after leaving the material tabernacle. The perfection of Lord by a devotee actually situates him on the red hot iron, which when in contact with fire actually ceases to be iron and acts like fire. These things are energy which material science has not the scope to calculate.
Can you again restart from there? Your voice is breaking very badly in between.
Hare Krishna.
Can you start from here again?
The perfection of love of God by a devotee actually situates him on the spiritual platform. Even though he may still maintain a gross material body, he becomes like a red hot iron, which, when in contact with fire, actually ceases to be iron and acts like fire. These things are made possible by the Lord's inscrutable and inconceivable energy, which material science has not the scope to calculate. One should therefore engage himself in devotional service with absolute faith. And to make his faith steadfast, one should seek the association of the standard devotees of the Lord by personal association, or if possible, or by thinking of them. This association will help one develop factual devotional service to the Lord, which will cause all material misgivings to disappear like a flash of lightning. All these different stages of spiritual realization will be personally felt by the candidate, and this will create in him a firm belief that he is making positive progress on the way to the spiritual sky. Then he will become sincerely attached to the Lord and his abode. Such is the gradual process of evolving love of God, which is the prime necessity for the human form of life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So we will stop here. We can start with the realization and reflection. Deepak Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, sorry for the delay. Yes, Prabhuji, I like the point when Prabhupada says that मतलब वो बता रहे थे कि कैसे योगी ना मतलब योगा करते हुए अष्टांग योगा करते हुए अपने जितने भी होल्स रहते हैं उसे आत्मा निकलती है, मतलब पूरा बता रहे थे कैसे सिस्टम कैसे वर्क करता है और कैसे वो मतलब किसी भी प्लेनेट पे ट्रेवल कर सकते हैं. तो दिस प्रोजी आई लाइक द पॉइंट बिकॉज मतलब प्रभुपाद जी मतलब मतलब उन्होंने कहीं से ऐसा कुछ एक्सपीरियंस मतलब किया नहीं, लेकिन फिर भी उनको प्रैक्टिकली सारी नॉलेज है एक तरह से, है ना, वो सारी चीजें जानते हैं और मतलब समझ पा रहे हैं ना मतलब मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूँ. सॉरी. हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
यस प्रभु जी, यस.
हाँ, और फिर बाद में फिर चैतन्य महाप्रभु बताते हैं कि कैसे हमें भक्तों के एसोसिएशन में और गुरु के डायरेक्शन में रह करके हमें 16 राउंड एंड वेदास वगैरह पढ़ना चाहिए। तो इस प्रभु जी एंड द सेकंड पॉइंट।
थैंक यू प्रभु जी। कनक।
हरे कृष्णा। मुझे मतलब वही रियलाइजेशंस है मेरी, जिसे हम लोग कल भी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि कैसे ऑफेंसलेस चैंटिंग करी जाए, या कैसे हम लोग मतलब प्रोग्रेस कर सकते हैं भक्ति में, बिकॉज इट हैज बीन डिफिकल्ट। तो वही आज मुझे मतलब काफी कुछ सीखने को मिला कि जो भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं गुरु के, सबसे पहले तो हमें अपना स्पिरिचुअल बोनाफाइड स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर चूज करना चाहिए, जो कि हमें गाइड कर सके कि कैसे हम लोगों को अपना लाइफ करना है एंड कैसे हम स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ में एडवांस कर पाएंगे। एंड द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग मुझे यही समझ आया कि चैंटिंग नहीं छोड़ना है, हमेशा ऑफर करना है भगवान को एनीथिंग, नॉट इवन फूड, एवरीथिंग। आवर फीलिंग्स आल्सो वी हैव टू ऑफर टू गॉड। और कैसे हम ये सब सिर्फ तभी कर पाएंगे जब हम डिवोटीज के एसोसिएशन में रहेंगे। तो काफी स्ट्रॉन्ग डिटर्मिनेशन हो गया है कि जिस पाथ पे हम चल रहे हैं कि इट इज नाइस। दैट्स इट, थैंक यू, हरे कृष्ण।
और फीलिंग ऑफर करके मतलब करना क्या है, वो भी पॉइंट है ना, करेक्ट ना?
यस यस प्रभु जी, कि
ऑफर
मतलब
करके।
जैसे आप कल हमें बता रहे थे कि ऑफर करने मतलब खाना ऑफर करने से पहले ही एक प्रक्रिया शुरू हो जाती है कि जैसे अगर हम रात में सोच के सो रहे हैं कि भगवान के लिए कल मुझे ये बनाना है, भगवान को मुझे कल ये खिलाना है, तो इट्स अ होल प्रोसेस कि हमारी फीलिंग्स भी उसमें इन्वॉल्व होनी चाहिए। ये नहीं कि सिर्फ हम एक प्रोसेस फॉलो कर रहे हैं कि भगवान को ऑफर करना है, बट उसके साथ आपकी फीलिंग्स भी आनी चाहिए उसमें कि इट्स नॉट अ प्रोसेस बट इट्स कैसे बोलूं उसे कि
बट
इट्स
दैट इज
अ
डिवोशन सर्विस।
सॉरी प्रभु।
नहीं नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि वो तो एक पॉइंट है ही कि भाई हम अपनी जो है मर्जी का बना के और भगवान को खिला के ये नहीं कह सकते लो भगवान इसके जरा पाप निकाल दो ताकि हम पूर्ण
हाँ,
आत्मा ही रहे, हम खा लेते हैं। तो इस तरह से तो डिवोशन सर्विस नहीं हुई। भगवान को तो वो खिलाना पड़ेगा जो भगवान पसंद करते हैं।
जो भगवान पसंद
पर,
करते हैं, जैसे
पर
बाकी।
आपका वो पॉइंट अच्छा था कि जिसमें आप बोल रहे हैं कि हमें फीलिंग्स भी भगवान को ऑफर करनी है। इसका मतलब क्या है कि जैसे भगवान जैसे अर्जुन है, तो अर्जुन को फीलिंग आने लगी कि भाई मैं नहीं लड़ाई कर रहा, ये तो मेरे चाचा मामा फूफा खड़े हैं सामने, मेरे तो बस की नहीं है भाई ये बात, लड़ाई वड़ाई मेरे बस की नहीं है। बट व्हाट ही इज डूइंग, he is offering those feelings to Krishna. Why? Because these are useless things, these are material. तो वो क्या कर रहे हैं इन फीलिंग्स को कृष्णा को देके, और क्या कर रहे हैं, युद्ध कर रहे हैं। क्यों? बिकॉज दिस इज डिवोशनल सर्विस। करेक्ट ना? No
राइट राइट।
matter what we are going through in our life, for what kind of feelings, we have to offer them all to Krishna. Why? So we continue on devotional service. वही प्रभुपाद भी बोल रहे हैं, प्रभुपाद जी ने भी हाईलाइट किया था, we have to keep chanting in all circumstances.
यस प्रभु जी, I'll make sure that from today
थैंक यू
I'll
माता जी,
change circumstances.
ये अच्छा पॉइंट आपने हाईलाइट किया। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
थैंक यू माता जी। सॉरी प्रभु।
तो जी वो जितने बार प्रभु की जो 5 टीचिंग्स थी वो आई थिंक वो तो मतलब हमें कहीं पेस्ट कर देनी चाहिए हर जगह जहाँ पे भी आप बैठते हैं, ऑफिस है या फिर रूम है, कि वन शुड एसोसिएट विद डिवोटीज, वन शुड चैंट द होली नेम ऑफ द लॉर्ड, and one should hear transcendental topics like Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and one should have deities installed at their home, and so that we can so that we can follow the Krishna consciousness and we can become Krishna conscious in any part of the world. So yes, तो जी वो मेरे को टीचिंग बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट लगेगी, उसमें सारा आधार आ गया डिवोशन सर्विस का। यस प्रभु, that's all from my side. Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me? Naveen Prabhu, can you hear me?
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Sorry,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Yes.
रियलाइजेशन प्रभु जी, मुझे तो मतलब ये थोड़ा सा इंफॉर्मेटिव ज्यादा है इंफॉर्मेशन, बट जो जो पॉइंट्स अच्छे जो लगे काफी, वो जो प्रभुपाद ने जो सारे पॉइंटर्स दिए हुए हैं कि हाउ एक प्रोग्रेसिव वे में फ्रॉम नंबर 1 टू नंबर आई थिंक कितना 20 तक है, राइट? सो
20,
हाउ 20, राइट? सो ऑल दोस पॉइंट्स एंड देन the next 5 things like any devotee should do: living in dham, associating with devotees, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping deities at home, and making the place like uh, uh, क्या बोलते हैं, तीर्थ और धाम. So all of that are and anybody can do it anywhere, right? This is not require any special arrangements. Even if you don't have the deity, that's fine. You can have a picture and offer food. So Prabhupada ने भक्ति को बहुत सरल बना दिया है. It's just a matter of our you know doing things. That's all. हमें केवल एग्जीक्यूट करना है. उसमें ऐसा बहुत नियमाग्रह वाली नहीं है प्रभुपाद ने. यूजुअली जो मंदिर में होती है, जो पंचरात्रि का विधि होती है, उसमें नियम और सब होते हैं, लेकिन प्रभु ने घर के लिए बहुत सिंप्लीफाई किया है. तो अगर हम उसे करते हैं तो दैट विल हेल्प अ लॉट इन आवर स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी. एंड तो नंबर 2, मुझे जो पॉइंट माता जी ने बोला वो बहुत अच्छा लगा, रिगार्डिंग नॉट जस्ट food and everything. We should offer our feelings and emotion, and actually we should talk to the deities. That's something I was told by a very senior devotee. And when we start sharing and standing in front of deities, उनके सामने खड़े हो, आप समय बिताओ, उनसे बात करो, share your emotions, and you will see the reciprocation. You will start feeling. अब वो आपको लगेगा कि डीटी नहीं बोल रहे, बट आपको actually I don't know, but I heard devotees, they have like really exchange from deities. अभी सुन के थोड़ा सा हम लोगों को शायद वो लेवल नहीं है, लेकिन वाकई में अच्छा ऐसा होता है कि उन्होंने वाकई बात की है कि deities से. But really that happens. They feel that reciprocation. The deities are telling them things, right? तो वो होता है, बिल्कुल होता है. एंड आई एम श्योर कि आप लोगों ने भी कभी ना कभी बचपन में, जब हम लोग इनोसेंट होते हैं तब ज्यादा जल्दी एक्सपीरियंस होता है कि हम बात करते थे, परेशान होते थे, तब आई रिमेम्बर सब मेमोरीज. वो थ्रू परमात्मा माध्यम से हो, किसी माध्यम से हो, बट वो ऐसा लगता था कि हाँ एक मैसेज मिल रहा है. तो वी शुड डेफिनेटली गिव सम टाइम टू डीटीज, नॉट जस्ट हैविंग देम और घर में, और उनको बस जब सुबह जब कोई बनाया तो ऑफर कर दिया और फिर दिन भर छोड़ दिया. नहीं, वी शुड टेक टाइम आउट एंड सिट विद देम, इन्वेस्ट टाइम विद देम, talk to them. Yeah, thank you Prabhuji.
Very, very nice realization, Prabhuji. Anything else anyone want to add? Okay.
अश्विन प्रभुजी तो बोले नहीं अभी तक.
अनुभव हो गया, आप सभी भक्तों ने समराइज कर दिया अच्छे से.
अरे नहीं प्रभुजी, आपसे सुनना है हमें.
Thank you so much. I stop here. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो नमः.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
जय हरि बोल.
Hari Bol. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna.